Be focused and be clear what God has called you to be. I don't need everybody in my Kool-Aid. Your Kool-Aid is sweet enough. Stay in your lane. Do what God has called you to do. Punch your neighbor one more time and say, stay in your lane. And while you're staying in your lane, my brothers and sisters, be ready. You know, when you're on an airline, you're on a plane, they tell you, buckle up. We're about to take off. And I've just come by to tell you, at Antioch this first Sunday, Pastor Milton came with a vision. Buckle up. Nor forsake you, my brothers and sisters. A man that told you that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. A man that spoke to the winds and the waves and said, peace, be still. I don't know about you, but without a shadow of a doubt, I know that God will make a way. Yes, He will. Yes, He will. And the last letter in the acronym BEST, after you first be clear on your purpose. Then number 2, you got to expect some forward movements, but you also got to expect some delays. Amen. Then you got the S, which is say who you with. If you say you go to Antioch Church, or you say I'm your pastor, then I need you to, when you even go to crowd today, say, tell somebody, I go to Antioch. My pastor is Reverend Milton. Who you with? If that's the same thing, you need to tell somebody, I'm a believer. I know that God woke me up this morning and started me on my way. I know that God will make a way out of no way. Who you with? That's the next letter, is say who you with. But the last letter before we go enjoy some Golden Corral or wherever we eat in Townsville or Henderson is T for telling thank you. To hover over us and do all that you have called us to do. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for making a way out of no way. Thank you, God. Do your best. Yes, Antioch, we're on the move. We're on the move. We're going to be what God has called us to be. And the only way we can do that is to do your best. Whatever God has called you to do it with your bad self. Best in the midst of mess. Yes, God has blessed all of us with a ministry, but if truth be told, it's hard to do ministry in the midst of mess. Preacher Greg Milton, I'm doing the best that I can, and since I keep saying best, I want to use the acronym BEST to answer that question. How do I do the best that I can in the midst of all that situation? The first letter in BEST is B for be clear and be focused. Best. The first letter in BEST is be clear and be focused. Paul writes in chapter 3, verse 17, and whatever you do or say, the first thing that one needs to do in order to do your best is be clear what God has called you to do. One of the biggest problems facing the church today is everybody is in everybody else's Kool-Aid. And you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. God has called each and every one of us to something special. But the problem is too many of us don't know what we called to. And since we're unclear what I'm called to, I'm going to be in everybody else's Kool-Aid. Do you know folks like that can't cook a bit? And every time we got something at the church, they frying chicken. And don't nobody bit more eat the chicken. Not here at Antioch. I hadn't ate anything. I ain't talking about nobody here. But I heard at other churches where folks always are doing stuff that they ain't got no business. Do you know folks like that? Have you ever been to a church and they had some mean ushers? Ain't that an oxymoron? If you don't like smiling and saying good morning, ushering is there and focus what God has called us to do. But today needs to be the day where you decide, I am going to figure out what God has called me to do. Yes, my sister told everybody that we will start on Tuesday a book study called Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren, because we're going to decide and focus as a church What has God called us to do? Before we do anything else, my brothers and sisters, I want to find out, what has God called you to do? Because the kingdom is full of gifted folks, but the problem is everybody else is bumping into each other because we're not clear what God has called you to do. So I'm encouraging you, hunt somebody and tell them, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. One thing that's going to get me fired really quickly is you're going to hear me tell you often, my brothers and my sisters, stay in your lane. Yes, everybody knows that when you're coming down the road, if there's cars coming in the other direction and you in that lane, there's going to be some tragedy that happens. And too oftentimes in our churches, tragedy happens week after week because everybody is in everybody else's lane. I want to remind you and myself to stay in your lane. Yes, my brothers and sisters, the first thing you got to do is, Paul says, whatever you do, be focused and be clear. Stay in your lane. Know that God has called you to something, but stay in your lane and do what God has called you to do. Yeah. Repeat after me. No. Some of us need to learn how to say that word. Somebody come up and tell you they need you to fry some chicken. You know you can't fry no chicken. Your pots ain't been used since Obama was in office. You don't need to fry any chicken. So you need to tell folks, no, I'm not going to do that. But I can suggest somebody else. Is there anything else you want me to do? But frying chicken is not my gift. You need to begin telling folks, no, that's not what God has called me to do. I can help you with X, Y, Z, but I can't do that. But too oftentimes, we just say no and don't do anything. I just stepped on somebody's toes. You good at saying no, but what can you do besides sitting on your hind pockets? I need some folks to get up, as James Brown said, and get on the good foot. The next letter in B is E for expect movement but delays. Somebody's right here. Paul writes in verse 17, and whatever you do and say, comma. A comma means that something else is on the way. Paul is explaining to us that once you refocus and begin doing your best, there is going to be some great momentum. Someone in this place is going to be re-energized this week by focusing on what God has called you to do. But shortly after that momentum comes, here comes the delay. Yes, folks are going to get on your last nerves. I recently started something, and you're doing what God has called you to do. But you got to expect some delays. You got to have some roadblocks in your life. You're going to have some up and down days. And the thing that God told me to tell you is, don't let your up and down days deter you from getting off track. Yes, my brothers and sisters, you got to keep on going. Hunt somebody and tell them, keep going. That is a word for someone in this place. You are preparing to give up on what God has called you to do. But whoever you are, I just come by with a word this morning to say, don't quit. That issue in your life is just a small setback for a major setup. Preach, Greg Milton. I want to say that again. That issue in your life is just a small setback for a major setup. I know that it's disheartening that you have gone through all that you did, but refocus. Expect some positive movement, but also, my brothers and sisters, you got to expect some delays on this journey. Tell somebody that I know you've had a rough week this week, but keep on keeping on. Why? Because the best is yet to come. Someone might be asking, but Greg, how do I make it through those delays? I'm glad you asked. If you look, the next letter found in best is S for say who you with. I know everyone in here listens to James Cleveland with your holy and righteous selves. But every now and then, I need some folks to be some thugs. Put you some Timberland boots on and get you a big old gold chain and some fake gold teeth in your mouth and listen to some hip-hop, because there was a hip-hop artist by the name of Little John and the East Side Boys. And they asked a question that said, who you with? Paul writes, my brothers and sisters, be a representative of Jesus Christ. Yes, Little John and Eastside Boys asked the question, and Bernie Mac used to steal it all the time and say, who you with? There are going to be times in your life when things get rough, and you're going to have to decide who you with. Part of our issue is we with the wrong crew. We asking folks their opinion, and they can't do anything about it. You need to know that God has got your back. And you need to know that if you're going to be a representative of Him, you need to go out and tell folks that you are a part of the body of Christ. Nor forsake you, my brothers and sisters. A man that told you that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. A man that spoke to the winds and the waves and said, peace, be still. I don't know about you, but without a shadow of a doubt, I know that God will make a way. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. And the last letter in the acronym BEST, after you first be clear on your purpose. Then number 2, you got to expect some forward movements, but you also got to expect some delays. Amen. Then you got the S, which is say who you with. If you say you go to Antioch church, or you say I'm your pastor, then I need you to, when you even go to crowd today, say, tell somebody, I go to Antioch. My pastor is Reverend Milton. Who you with? If that's the same thing, you need to tell somebody, I'm a believer. I know that God woke me up this morning and started me on my way. I know that God will make a way out of no way. Who you with? That's the next letter, is say who you with. But the last letter before we go enjoy some Golden Corral or wherever we eat in Townsville or Henderson is T for telling thank you. Giving thanks. Remember that Paul was writing this letter while being chained in a Roman jail. How can someone be physically in bondage but still thankful? Paul understood who he was working for, and when you recognize who you are representing, it does not matter what your circumstance is, you can still give God praise. Can you imagine Paul writing with one hand and his other hand is chained to the wall, but he's still giving God praise? I don't know who I'm talking to, but somebody has been chained to your situation for a mighty long time, but you just need to simply give God praise. Is there anybody on this first Sunday in November that can say, Rev, you definitely on my street. I've been chained to some issues all my life, but I'm here to tell you, Rev, that I can still give God praise. On this first Sunday of November, I just want to stop by and tell somebody that no matter what you're going through on this day, that you can still give God praise. I don't care what your occupation is, you can give God praise. If you're a custodian, you need to vacuum and you tell them thank you. If you're a teacher, you can look at them old bad youngins that you're teaching and tell them thank you. I don't care what you're doing. If you work in a factory or you're retired, you can tell them thank you. Is there anybody on this first Sunday of November that can give God praise and tell them thank you? I know that you've had some ups and downs in your life and things have been looking crazy, but I wish I could find somebody that can say, Rev, I'll tell him thank you. Why I'm going to tell him thank you? Because I'm a representative of Christ.